When Wuthering Waves came out, I wanted to play it first, but was quickly met with the sad or maybe lucky news that my laptop wasn't good enough to run it. So I didn't even launch the game and went back to play League, Genshin and Star Rail. Just to name a few. A few. Yet these games are demanding of your time, asking for your life with the promises of boundless happiness. Yeah, they are liars. But this video isn't about shitting on scary practices, on how you must be better than them, or how you should give up on these games. No, this video is about my time playing Wuthering Waves, with the disclaimer that I had great fun delving into the world of... what was it again? Soldiers 3? Yes, this video is about fun, about adventure, about an expedition I led with my team of Rover and his harem. I mean fellow companions. Because as it is custom for laptops, they tend to break with time. And I bought a new one. One that was capable of running Wuthering Waves. And so I downloaded it, but had to wait for the first launch. As I mentioned, I was playing a lot of other things. But they faded. At the moment of writing the script, I haven't opened Genshin in 4 months. And I play Star Rail only to finish the main questline. They do not have all my time. And so it came that I saw Wuthering Waves had its anniversary event. And I launched the game. I named this series Journal as I didn't want to name it Diary. This is not a playthrough. This is not a retrospective. This is a collection of footnotes an unknown fellow reader left with a pencil on the margins of a book you borrowed from a library. I will mix my thoughts with commentary on what is happening on screen. At times I will leave some important moments to speak for themselves, and at other times I will speed through parts of the story with quick summaries of the passing events. And I will explore. When I feel like it, I will allow myself to get derailed, to craft a story no other player has lived. Because I'm here to enjoy playing. Because a long, long time ago, games were meant to be fun. Welcome to the Soldiers 3 Journal. And with that, we arrive at Soldiers 3 with a bit of a problem on our hands. The problem is that this is the start of the story, and as such, we have to introduce the world. I'm an author of a few fantasy novels myself, so I understand what's at stake. The first few scenes matter a lot. If you do this right, you can get your reader, this time the player, feel embedded in your world. The crux? You chose to do a fantasy world, and everything has a weird term here, of which we, the player, are oblivious. So you have to craft the first few scenes in a way that introduces the setting of the world. Fake world building, magic and political sociological systems, and other terms that come with living in an alien world. Now, this is hard. You cannot infodump, meaning you can't front-load all these informations just on themselves, you need to craft scenes for them. and these scenes have to make sense. This is why what Wuthering Waves, and for the matter both Genshin and Star Rail do, is that they start out with a tabula rasa, a player character who is also oblivious to the world they are living in. We have no memories, and as such, need to be explained everything.
Attire doesn't seem local. Are you a roving traveler from afar, or someone returning home?
Another easy way would be to have a narrator, and you meta-narrate everything about the world to the player, but this would break the you're the player character self-insert play these games like to do. It could work for comedies though, so I cannot wait for a game to do this. Looking at you, Hades, you've done it great and with interaction on the playable character's end. But back to salaries. We arrive with no memories, and I don't know if what we saw in the intro is still in our heads or that lady just vanished as well like she did from the rest of the story, or at least as far as I'm into it right now. What was the point of that scene then? I'm still about to find out. Keep in mind, I have not finished the first arc yet, so maybe a huge revelation is ahead. For now, tabula rasa. And since we have no memories, we can learn everything from scratch. But do we have to do it this fast? Wuthering Waves front-loads all the information to the point where it just doesn't make sense to the new player. I could grab a dictionary and write down all the weird terms that Shisha is explaining to us right now. Tacit field, etheric sea, resonator, or just space out and trust that with time I'll understand them as they are part of the world building. And this was a constant problem throughout the story, so we'll get back to it as we move forward.
Before you remember your true name?
Now about this scene. I like how central our name will be. Mind you can just gloss over it, not pay any attention and accept that you're Rover or the name you chose at the start, which isn't even an option for this conversation. But I decided to give our name emphasis, and man did it pay off in an emotional way. You'll see it a few episodes later. For now, I chose the It Suits Me option and let them call me Rover. Although we do not know who Rover is for now, hopefully the conversation options will help us establish a personality for him. I mean, Star Rail was able to do it, wasn't it? Interestingly enough, the first main quests call us by that name, while the non-voiced ones will use NDV. And after a while, even the main quests have NDV in their text, while the characters themselves will call us a range of things from friend to rover to companion. I embraced the rover name for now. Would I have remembered at the start of the game that the MC is called Rover? I might have chosen that, but I'm glad I couldn't recall his inward name, and thus I created this interesting dynamic of are we Rover or Nidak Wolf? While I do the tutorial fight, a few mentions about the conversation I just talked over. At first playthrough on the fly, I didn't even realize where our name comes from, but now I see and it actually made me smile. Yang Yang asks us if we are a roving traveler from afar, or someone returning home. Great meta question. Are you a new player, or is this your alt account? And for someone playing on the alt account, the start of the story isn't as bad. Rewatching this, I've understood all the terms. The sentences that didn't make sense were clear now, so I could appreciate how early they introduced us to the world building. Unfortunately, in a way that didn't help me understand the world building the first time. I really think the main problem is just time. It's too dense. They talk about tacit fields, but later on we actually have to fight some tacit discords, so why not just delay the drop there? Same with the etheric sea. You remember what I said about the things we need to introduce? Vague world building, magic system, political sociological system, other weird terms that are part of the world like gadget, etc. And we do exactly that in the first 10 minutes of play. Vague world building, mention of the etheric sea and the tacit fields. Magic system, first fight with Rover against the tacit discords. Political sociological system, having a vision of Huey at the dragon statue. All done with also getting a tutorial on movement and basic combat, auto attack and skill. It's a shame really, as the world of Wuthering Waves is gorgeous. The world building, stellar. The way they've incorporated sun waves as the foundation of the world, the retro crane, all of these are really interesting. But they just couldn't grab my attention for the first while of the story. What did though was gameplay. Let's start with combat as we are just fighting this giant rock that came to introduce us to our ulti. And oh man, what an ulti it is! A time stop plus burst damage ability that actually looks like a time stop? Get me in! I must say I like Rover's abilities. I always have the MCs in my team for the main story, but with Rover, even outside I was playing him, and not just because I didn't have other units built for a while. Spectre Rover is just fun. The other pillar of gameplay is exploration. I generally like to explore in games, and in Wuthering I was given an exploration heaven. There's just enough content with just enough variety that I could go on and get lost on the map before realizing it, and trying to find a way back to the main story where on my way back I can still do some combat or puzzle encounters. And beside the actual objective-driven exploration, there's also gathering. I went and picked all the lotus flowers available to me, smashed all the giant rocks standing by the wayside, culled all the treasures of the land. It also helps that Wuba looks good, real good. But you already know that. Everyone told you so, and we both know just looking good wouldn't guarantee that it's an enjoyable game. But visuals paired with sound design and combat, it just does it. Now back to story. After some exploration, I leave the Huey statue's basin and follow the direction of the plot to leave through a tunnel and have a first broad look at the world of Solaris 3. A tunnel to a wide shot from above. I have to admit, while it does work and still gives me a small pinch of wonder, it was so overdone in the last few games I've played that I'm starting to get tired of it. And as we stand on the hillside, we see the etheric sea converging, forming a tested field as if I would understand these terms yet, and down below, beside the school mark, we find our next companion, Baishe. We space out. Again, this is now 3 times since the start of the game. Everyone's worried, and here comes the tutorial boss to introduce us to elite encounters. This is where I have to mention enemy design in Wuthering Waves. Some of the echoes look a bit goofy while the other end of the spectrum is gorgeous, like this tutorial boss. The difference between the two, just in broad terms, is mainly how hard they went with the enemies having sharp edges or underbuilds. For example, the giant rock we fought when first trying the ulti is part of the run-shaped segments type, and the 2 grinds that came right before the bulk guy were also made with circles and globes in mind, although they had pointy horny heads. They can look cool too, but most of the time I find myself drawn towards the sharp edges type more. For the excitement of the fight, I was obviously looking forward to see if they will be anything of a challenge in Wuba or not. I've heard everyone praise the combat system, some even said the bosses are hard. For now, let's just say I'm enjoying learning the new abilities and the systems, but the novelty of a new game cannot last forever. We will come back to a deeper discussion about combat in a later episode. I was just about to sigh, a bit disappointed that the boss fight wasn't as epic as I thought it would be, when I hit the last damage on this Echo's health bar, and then it turned out there is a second phase. Rewatching it, I must add I don't like the music choice here. The first phase just wasn't a build up for it. However, the fight itself is cool. You're not supposed to lose it. In fact, I'm not sure I've ever lost a fight where the problem was me playing wrong and not just being so underleveled that I couldn't do it in the time limit or I was one-shot anyway. The problem of these gacha games is that they can't make the bosses harder, otherwise clearing them on a weekly or for normal world bosses even more regularly basis would be just a pain. I think this is one of the major limitations of these types of games currently, as if they increase the difficulty, people are not going to even try them unless they have a bunch of time on their hands, but if they don't make them harder, then doing them for the first time in the story, it at least has its novelty, but afterwards, it's just farming you have to do to level. A win-win situation would be to have them be harder in the story when you do it for the first time, and then be easier or rather given less health but still with the same moveset when you do them for the weeklies. Unfortunately, this just wouldn't work. Some people don't want to have a challenge playing the game, they're just here to relieve some of the stress of day-to-day life. The only solution would be to have a difficulty system like in other games. Before we move forward in the story, I still have to mention something very cool Wuva does: the finishers. I did not expect them to be present in the combat system, but having finishers for boss fights is a solid addition. One thing I don't like though, and this might be controversial, is the impact frames. For those not familiar with the term, it's when the screen goes black and white, sometimes with a single other color, sometimes with two different colors, but here in Wuva it's just black and white, and when the hard hitting ability connects, the screen turns to this render mode, then switches back after a few frames. It's just one of those things that the more I see, the less I like. A personal grudge. Probably because I saw so many things with regular impact frames that I got tired of them.
So it doesn't work.
After the fight, we learn about echo absorbing and how our terminal wasn't able to do it because we're underleveled, but how we did it anyway because we don't need a terminal. Our hand, where our test mark is able to absorb echoes for whatever reason. We hear a voice telling us they're hungry, foreshadowing the story and setting the promise that the something that was hungry will come back later at an important time. They always do. And for now, we move forward, accepting that outside of this single instance, we will still need our terminals to absorb echoes, therefore we have to level it. And now let's listen to this surely important lore drop as it takes half the screen.
What kind of power is that? A celestial being descended, commanding the Tiankun's boundless power. Assuming mortal form, they condensed the primordial essence, creating Pangu. Cleaving heaven and earth apart, they aligned the celestial and terrestrial. Their radiance encompassed the four corners. Thus began the illustrious annals of Huanglong, as provinces were first demarcated.
So you remember about too many alien terms? Well, at least here it's a story, so I can kind of understand.
They absorbed the tacit discords with their bare hands.
Before continuing our journey towards the city, we meet the magistrate of Jinzhou in a public call for the first time, which marks the final stroke of the interaction of the setting. While at first I didn't quite like her design and her personality seemed faceless, I did grow to like her as the story moved forward, but that is solely the effect of having played her act later on in the main story. So for now, we're natural. And this marks my next problem. Towards all these other characters, I feel natural. I have to make a few comparisons to Genshin and Star Rail as these are my anchor points for games like this. In Genshin we had Paimon, and while Paimon was indeed annoying, she wasn't as bad in Mondstadt, so at first I didn't even get why people don't like her. Paimon was perfect for introducing the world. A bit dense, but someone who deeply cared about us and tried to do her best. The other memorable character in Mondstadt was Venti, whom we saw early on, and I knew I want to continue playing, so I meet him and the dragon. In Star Rail, from the get-go we have Marchant and Hung. One of them a cool guy I want to be friends with, the other one a lovely girl I want to stay out for nights with, going to parties, etc. Both of them great friend material. And then there was Welt and Himeko, like a mother and a father. The characters introducing us to the world were interesting and important to us, bonding them easy and natural. I did not feel the same here. I made a joke about Rover and his harem at the start of the video, but I do have to mention that the joke was not as heartfelt as rather just something I found funny in the moment. But it works for other players, I've seen so many posts about this topic online. I guess I just have to say, Viva is not directed at me as much as the other two catches I've played. And that's fine. Let's see if I can enjoy it nonetheless. A final note on this one. I have no idea why Robert is going with them. Yes, here the magistrate does invite us, so from here on out it at least does make a little sense, but before, I just always had the thought lurking at the back of my head. But what if I just want to go the other way and figure this world out for myself? I have no idea who and where I am, what happened to me. I might want to be a bit more careful and learn about my situation before joining parties and gaining new acquaintances. But we follow them because the story does, and here we are, going together to the city because we're someone important and the magistrate of Jinzhou wants to see us. So as I said, the main interaction of the world is finished now. We've met the last important player of the political sociological landscape, learned the essential part of the magic in game's combat system, accessing the ultimates, counters and finishers, and got a broader understanding of the world building, seeing tacit fields form and absorbing tacit discards with our terminal, or at least our hand for now. The stage is set to open up the world before the player.
Whether you are the visitor our magistrate mentioned or not, you are surely important to Jinzhou, and you will be our important friend. We've already entrusted our lives to each other. I've never seen so many TDs packed together, and that elite one was so scary. Well, you did get rid of most of them. Anyway, once we're back in Jinzhou, I'll treat you that famous specialty from Panhua's restaurant.
On my way to the city, I did some exploration, always cycling the mandatory ones with the currencies I chose on my own, going the other way, not following the yellow marks yelling this way at me. I've learned to play games like this on my many playthroughs of semi-open world games, where you do everything you can before continuing down the main path. During our way to Jinzhou, we learn how the ecosystem works, or at least are shown that it exists. Without a greater batch of echoes, you can't really see the intricacies of the system. The novelty, which has to be mentioned of course, is the echo skill, which sets this apart from artifact or relic systems from Genshin and Star Rail. I found it interesting at first, not knowing that actually you only have 1 or 2 optimal echo skills per playable character anyway, which makes the system so much less interesting that after a while I gave up on it and just used the recommended. Of course, first you need to actually have echoes for that, and here comes the next cool part of the system, that it makes exploration more meaningful, since you can farm these echoes from the open world. Or so you think at first, and for the lower levels it stays true, but unfortunately, if you want those golden echoes, you'll have to farm tested fields anyway. Which is a shame, really. Maybe if I would have leveled my world a bit more, it would have gotten to the point of me being able to find good echoes just by exploring. But where I stand right now, and by that I mean not the point you see on screen, but the point I'm actually at, it's just not the case. And finally, we reach the city, and with it we are met with a cutscene introducing the main villain of the region, although she won't be the boss we encounter, which is just a flow design I think. It should have been Scar here, but I digress, as I actually think it should have been no one here. There is no point in a quick intermission of the enemy watching us from the distance. The only reason you've put it here, story-wise, is just to show that there is a conflict building. But I think we don't really need another conflict right now. We have the novelty and the mystery of a new world, the question of why we were able to absorb an echo with our bare hand, then not be able to do that the second time, and we also have the magistrate inviting us, which will be its own conflict when we get there, namely that the magistrate has not been seen for a while. But for now, we arrive at Jinzhou and are shown how the bustling city looks and feels like in this introductory cutscene, which I think was a good idea to put it here. I would even go as far as to say the tunnel and the look from above was unneeded, as this evokes the same sense of wonder but is a bit more unique. And with that, our group disperses, Baishi going to the academy to do some research regarding a strange ability, Yang Yang goes to report back to duty, and we go with Chishia to sightsee the city, first heading to the Nexus Tower, which is a mandatory part of all open world games now, thanks to Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft in general. But it's a good system, always fun to reveal new parts of the map. Now that the prologue to the main quest has reached its end, I've opened the menus to do some metagame exploration. Quick mentions of what I found good: being able to switch between the 2 rovers, this I found back at the Huey statue, and the vivid camera setting, which I think should have been the normal way the game renders itself, as otherwise Wuthering Waves is a bit too bleak for my liking. The next part of the story we will go through with wider steps, just like I promised you at the start of the video. After the setup for your world has been accomplished, you slow down, and that's what Hua has done here. Unfortunately, we, in this half podcast, half playthrough scenario, can't really do that, because the slowdown in video games most of the time just means doing fetch quests and listening to meaningless mono or dialogues. While if done right, theoretically you could do it in a way that it doesn't hurt the playing experience, presenting the story in a video format just wouldn't do well with taking a similar approach. So we will condense the story here. After activating the Nexus Tower, revealing the center part of the Honglong map, we got to meet the magistrate. We are welcome to the city hall, which was the first place where I actually looked at the environment, not just as a background but as an art. This was the first time I actually liked the visual presentation of Wuthering Waves, maybe outside of the tutorial boss's design and how the echoes look golden before we absorb them. Then we talk with Sanhua, who is someone important to the magistrate. I didn't really get their relationship, to be fair, but the point was, the magistrate is not in town, but she has given us a quest in the meantime. We have to find meaning for the 4 items she sent us through Sanhua. One thing that could have been laid out better is our first interaction with Sanhua. We see her looking at us with her weird eyes, but it's not explained until the end of our discussion that she only sees sun waves. That's why she examined us that closely. Also, I still don't know why it is that only mine and the magistrate's sun waves are clear in her eyes or something. You see, I really didn't get this lady. And you know what else I don't get? What was I supposed to do with this blue interaction mark right before this door? If you come back later, do you get a different outcome? Or was it there just to bug people? Which actually would be funny. But what we did get is the 4 items I've mentioned, namely a candy, a sundial, a leaf, and a mangosteen fruit. These will guide us through the main plot for the next while, serving as progression markers, which is always a nice design. Also, I don't know why, but I had to include this.
I don't have candy like that. But I've got this. It's really good. You can have one. Madam Magistrate said we should be nice to every guest.
I still remember this as I was looking through the footage. So wholesome. This is why I play video games. And because I enjoy them. Speaking of enjoyment, I spent the next 15 minutes doing this movement challenge while trying to figure out how jumping and gliding works, and man was it awesome. Yes, all I needed was just a puzzle where the MC, or just tutorial hints, didn't spoil how to solve it to enjoy the game. But it was a good puzzle. And also, level design wise, it's sneakily genius to put this movement challenge right in front of you where you're first meant to land after gaining access to the glider. Just chef's kiss, but sincerely genius. So now, forward to the academy. This is the section I have to condense the most. It was mostly just talking, going 10 paces, pressing a button and talking again. We met Mortifi, a new character who didn't get enough screen time to actually develop a character, so instead we just got the silent but caring deep inside trope. We regrouped with Baishi, who, although was on screen longer, still didn't have enough of a personality for me to try and decide how I feel about her. We came to the academy for 2 purposes. 1, Baishi needed to check if everything is alright with us after we absorbed the crownless, and 2, we needed pointers for the quest items we got from the magistrate. Let's start with the physical examination. We're introduced to the tutorial space, and I know we're not at that point yet, but let me bring this up. I really like how Wuthering teaches you how to play the characters in the trial stages, and doesn't just dump you in a fight, then you press some buttons and you either got a feel of how the skills work, or you have to go and read through all the text just to figure out if you should skill before ult or ult before skill. As for this fight right here, it seems everything is alright with us, but just as we were to pull out of this domain...
Rover, can you hear me? Hello?
The comm line is dead. Something's wrong. Gotta be cautious. Now, where is the exit? Huh. I'm back to the same spot again. And this... moon. What is happening? Are those tacit discords?
Rover! Rover! Thank goodness! You're awake, Baiji. What happened just now? The connection was suddenly cut off.
Rover, do you still remember what you saw?
Fortunately, it seems everything is fine with us. And we move on to ask about the quest items. I could guide you through all the small steps of how we revealed that the candy is a treatment against some disease from 2 decades ago, and how the sundial has an item inside, but first we have to figure out the combination lock for it. But instead I will let Rover summarize what we learned, the same what I just said, since it's not often that he speaks. The floor is yours.
Let's look back on what we've gathered so far. Our clues point to the sugar pearl as a key in solving the sundial's puzzle. Simply put, one token can lead to multiple targets, and one target may hold several pieces of information. We both had a reason for meeting. The magistrate had information to share, while I had questions to ask. However, her tokens contain both what she wants to tell me and what I want to ask her, making it seem like she is complicating matters. Or maybe she was running out of time. That's why she could only offer us scraps of the puzzle, instead of actually putting it together. Or perhaps she's indeed a master strategist, leaving breadcrumbs for us to follow. The initial clues may simply be a test to... She needed to ensure that those who may come across these tokens without understanding their true meaning would not be able to use them for access. If it were you, Yang Yang, what would you do to make sure the recipient gets what you mean?
I would emphasize my true message by repeating it again and again.
And with that we've completed what we came for, and it's time for us to leave and go to sleep. Shisha comes back from patrol to meet with us, and we agree to see each other first thing tomorrow morning in a restaurant. But as to what will happen next, I'll leave that for the next episode. Before we end, I know some of you might be wondering, why did I skip the part where we unlock the convene system? The answer is simple. Narratively, it's just in a bad spot, in the middle of a conversation block, plus, I don't think as viewers it should be important to you. I'll be mostly using the same team for the entire Hanglong act, and that's all that matters. However, I will mention it again that it was during the anniversary patch I played, so I was able to choose a 5-star guaranteed. I decided to wait until I get the one for the discounted standard banner, so we won't be seeing that 5-star for a while yet. As for the special banners, let's just say most of the WoW characters aren't targeted at me, so after looking at what's at disposal, I decided that if I can farm enough convening material I will try to go for Shangliao, because he was one of the reasons I wanted to play WoW back when my laptop wasn't able to run it. Will I be able to pull him? I guess that is to be found out in the later episodes. Now before closing, let's play the final cutscene of the first act of the Huanglong story quest. You remember what I said about menacing villain drops like this? Yeah, they did it again. But at least we also got a look at Sanhua guarding us from the shadows, plus this time the villains are actually shown at a time where the story is put to rest. So I can understand why they wanted to hint a seed of conflict which will propel you to come back tomorrow and continue playing the game. Because I'd wager this is where most of us stopped playing for the first time. It's been more than 2 hours since booting WoW after all. So thank you for watching, and I will see some of you in the next episode. Some of you, because it's always episode 1 that reaches the most people. So if you won't be coming back, a special goodbye to you. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And for those planning to continue, we'll take a slower pace going onward with more snippets that are played one-to-one from the quest. Writing and editing this video already took more time than I would like to admit. But I hope I gave you something that you genuinely enjoyed. So, see you next time. Farewell.